Hello and welcome to another episode of Quick and Nerdy, an MSP-friendly how-to channel dedicated to Veeam-powered BAS and DRAS offerings. And also, welcome to another episode of VDC for VCSP-BC. That's right, Veeam Data Cloud for Veeam Cloud and Service Provider Bootcamp. This is video number 3, I believe. So in the last couple videos, we've talked about the getting started, the setting up. We've talked about licenses and subscriptions from Pulse. We've talked about onboarding your tenants into the console. Now we're ready to start moving. But before we get into creating jobs, doing restores, we got to start with the basics of logging into the console for the first time, giving users access, navigating, what do all these buttons do, right? So we're going to jump right in, no slides today, jump right into Veeam Data Cloud and let's get started. Now, the first thing is you're going to go to cloud.veeam.com, and the first time that you sign up for a subscription to Veeam Data Cloud, you'll get an invite email. It'll bring you there, but just in general, going to the website, it's cloud.veeam.com for all Veeam Data Cloud products, and you have the option to sign in with a Microsoft email or a Veeam. Typically, I use the Microsoft email. Maybe if you don't have a licensed mailbox, you want to use your Veeam login, that's fine. They both support single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, but I'm going to use Microsoft for this. Now, as you can see here, I am part of multiple organizations, and in a real scenario, this would typically happen for one of two reasons. The first reason is you have purchased Veeam Data Cloud through resale, maybe in the marketplace, and you've also purchased Veeam Data Cloud through Pulse on the rental subscription. And unfortunately, those two types of licensing cannot be managed or shown in one dashboard. So, you could have a vault that you bought through the Azure Marketplace. You could also have another vault that you bought on rental. In fact, this was pretty common early on because when Veeam Data Cloud Vault first came out, it wasn't available on rental, so people just bought it through the marketplace. By the way, if you're one of those folks who bought Veeam Data Cloud Vault or Veeam Data Cloud for 365 through the marketplace or through resale, and now you'd like to move those subscriptions over to the rental program, you can do that. All you have to do is open up a ticket with support under General/Pulse. Tell them you'd like to move your subscription. Make sure that you've turned off any kind of auto renewal in the marketplace and create the subscription in Pulse ahead of time, and we'll take care of the rest for you. Also, make sure that lines up with when your contract is over. We can't get you out of your Azure Microsoft contract early, so it needs to line up as you're getting ready to renew. Open up a ticket, we'll move it over for you. All right, so the second reason why you may have multiple logins for your organizations is you are a service provider and you're also a tenant, right? So you're managing your own company as the service provider, but you're also a user of that same company. So you may log in as the user and look just at that tenant, or you may log in as the service provider and see all of your customers, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and log in as the service provider. That's where we're going to start. We will get into logging in as the customer. Got a little cache issue here, so let me just do this one more time. Every now and then that happens, so if that happens to you, just log back in. It should clear up on that second login, depending on the browser you're using. All right. So here we are in Veeam Data Cloud. First thing I'm going to do is go into my profile and put this baby in dark mode. All right. So this is the dashboard. This is where all your Veeam Data Cloud products are for all of your customers, multi-tenanted. This is your main overview page. You've got some links to open up support cases, the user guide. All of your workloads that you have are on the left here. If you don't have any workloads, you'll have an option to request a subscription for those workloads. Let's start by looking at the gear icon on the top right. And you can see here we've got a few options. And I'm going to actually start with the bottom, AI, okay? So the first time that you log in, you should be prompted with an AI consent. And basically, we're just asking if it's okay to use some artificial intelligence, some machine learning in your environment. Now, a couple things about this. One, it is per tenant. So you can turn this on or off at any time, opt in, opt out. And you can do that for yourself as a service provider and each tenant individually. So me accepting AI as a service provider does not automatically propagate that to all of my customers. Now, another thing, we are not training these models on your data, right? We're not reading your data. We're not looking at your actual data. We are looking at the metadata for some things like the malware and ransomware, which we'll get into probably in another video. But also just asking it questions. The AI chatbot, we're kind of in phase 1 of this. So it's like, hey, how can I create a backup job? What is the strategy for X? How do I do a restore? It'll point you to some documentation. I do expect the AI to evolve more into, give me some insights about what's happening over the weekend, or where can I improve some things. But anyway, these are some options for AI to go in and out, and you can turn that on or off at any time. So let's go back to the top, and we're going to go to users. So this is the RBAC, right? And this is a very important place to start. So you as a service provider, when you signed up, you are the admin of Veeam Data Cloud. So from here, I can invite other users in my service provider company to be admins or to have certain roles, and I can give that to all and future tenants, or I can limit it to specific tenants. So for instance, I want to invite a user. Now, one thing I want to start out with is the domain. So I am brandon.mccoy@veeam.com, and that's my service provider domain. Now, if I try to invite bob.vila@homeimprovement.com, I'm actually not going to be able to. And the reason is, that is not a veeam.com email. Now, this also holds true for the tenant. So the only people I can invite to be administrators, or whatever role for the service provider organization are users who are part of that same domain. When it comes to the customer, I can invite a service provider with my same domain, so a veeam.com in this case, to be a service provider admin, or to be able to do things on behalf of certain tenants. If I'm trying to give a tenant a specific role, which we'll get into, like I want to give one of my tenants, users, or employees the ability to create their own backup jobs, I can assign that role to that tenant, but only to a tenant that has that same domain. So we can't do any kind of additional layers of users with no third-party consultants or anything like that. You either have to be the service provider domain of the owner of Veeam Data Cloud, or the tenant domain inviting users from that tenant. So if I were to instead choose timothy.hudson@veeam.com, shout out to my homie Tim, I can send him an email and I can make him an admin. And again, this means I have everything: all tenants, all workloads, all roles and responsibilities. Now into the future, forever hold your peace, right? Or I can switch to viewer. Now, the viewer is not a specific role. It's actually giving you the ability to create custom roles. So if I click add role here, first of all, let's say I want to make this person a vault administrator, right? Or maybe just a vault viewer. All they can do is log in and see what's going on with the vault, but they can't do anything. They can't see 365, Azure. All they can do is see vault buckets, right? It's kind of boring, but maybe that's what I want to restrict it to, right? Now, do I want to give them this ability for all and future tenants, or do I only want to give it to them for Axiom Robotics, right? I can say that Tim is only allowed to be a vault viewer for this specific company. If he wants any additional roles, I have to add those. If he wants to do this for other tenants, have to add those as well. So again, if I don't select the tenant, then it's all tenants now and in the future. If it's specific tenants, I can select those here. I'm hoping they'll also make some additional changes here to give even more customization, but for now, these are kind of the ways that we do it. I'm going to delete that role. So hopefully that makes sense. Now, You may ask yourself, what if I've got 10, 20, 50 users? What if I've got people that are coming and going in my organization? Same thing for the tenants. We'll get into the customers. So we now offer groups. So what I can do here, and I've already done this for one of my tenants, I've went into my Entra ID and created a group name, and I got the group object from my Entra ID. And I'm making those users an admin. Of course, I can do the same thing with the customized roles. But this way, when I hire a new employee at Veeam, right? I'm just going to pretend that I'm the CEO for a moment. And I hire that person, I put them into a specific group in Entra ID that gives them the permissions to do whatever they need to do at Veeam. It also propagates to Veeam Data Cloud, and now they can view that vault, restore that email, or have full-on admin privileges for everyone. If that person leaves the company, I remove them from Entra ID, thus removing them from Veeam Data Cloud. All right. The roles here, you can also create custom roles. You can do it from scratch. You can see here that it is self-service is no longer required from the roles here. And what this is speaking to specifically is things like restoring emails, right? And we'll get into that in the 365 video, but all of these other roles are going to be specific permissions around workloads, right? So we showed you a moment ago a specific role for a specific workload, like to be able to view a vault or restore an email. Well, I guess restore an email is not a good example, given what we were just saying, but hopefully you catch the idea there. I can go a little bit further and say, this person is not just a viewer, but they can only view a specific dashboard or a specific widget. So this gets a lot more granular in terms of the roles that you want to build. Then you can assign users or Entra ID groups to those roles. Finally, we have customer settings. So this is where I can create those same RBACs for individual tenants. And again, this has to be a user within that tenant. So if I choose my Axiom Robotics here, and you can see here that I am a user as well. This is my tenant. It's a different email. I use a different email because it's a different domain. But that is my email account. And so I've made myself the organization admin. When you onboard a tenant, let's say with 365, and you put in the global admin credentials, or the customer puts those in, they automatically become the organization admin. And then you can add additional users, once again, giving them admin or specific roles. And of course, this is only for that specific tenant, and they must have the same domain. Now, if you have a customer who has multiple domains, as long as those all are kind of like aliases, they all resolve to the same Entra ID tenant, then that's fine, right? As long as Microsoft sees both of those domains under the same tenant, we can as well. I think the only exclusion there is the service provider logging in that top level. When you first sign up with Veeam Data Cloud, whatever that initial domain is, that's the only domain that you can use. So if you have like an acquisition of a company, you're going to have to give them an email with the same domain that you signed up with. Hopefully they'll change that in the future as well. But this is where I can send an invite to a customer or to a group of customers, and all the same things we talked about a moment ago with the custom roles, the groups, etc. So that's RBAC. Let's keep moving. We've got the dashboard here right now. This is for Salesforce, Entra ID, and 365. We will add additional workloads in the future. But this is basically showing me what's protected in my environment, what kinds of objects, some trends of alarms and warnings. I can scope this by a specific tenant. I can also scope it by a specific workload, and I can do that in any kind of order. So I only want to see Axiom Robotics 365, or I want to see all of Axiom Robotics workloads, but only Axiom, or I want to see only 365, but I want to see it for all of my tenants. So all that is available. I can't really do much with this information in terms of like downloading. I don't think Yeah, there's not really like any kind of CSVs. There are some reports, but those are product based. And I think right now it's just for 365. We will be adding additional reports. We will be adding APIs in the future. But I'll get into the reports in the 365 video since this is more of just an overview. Activity, backup sessions. So when was your last backup? What happened? I can view the details of that. Logs are going to be something that you download in the workload area. This is just kind of like, hey, your backup ran last night or it failed last night. Then you've also got the audit logs, who done it. And you can select different date ranges for these things. You've got some filters to kind of find what you're looking for. And then you've got the different workloads, right? So coming in here, adding a new tenant, which we've already gone over, going into that specific workload and, doing whatever actions that you need to. But again, we'll get into those as we do the specific workload videos. So I think that is a good overview of the portal. There's, not too much, but just wanted to kind of touch on the AI, the role-based access control, and the different tiers of service provider and tenants and their domains matching. So that's it for this video. Hope you found it informative. And until next time, keep on beaming in the free world.